Let me tell you a little bit about the content of this workshop. So this is not necessary. But this is something I always think is good to mention in the beginning of each meeting. And that is, what is the topic? Yeah? And the topic is leadership behavior that creates engagement, skills, and ownership. Yeah? So how can you behave as a leader so that you get a lot of energy, creativity, and ownership? The next is, what is the goal? The specific goal for this session is to inspire you, of course, on how you can use your own behavior as a tool to create this ownership and engagement. The approach for the session will be still people entering. So, the approach for this session I will of course shortly say why is that so important. You know, leadership behavior that creates ownership. Can imagine that it's quite clear, but you know, it's always good to stress it. I'll explain the tool, which is part of my book, The Leadership Compass. There will be a Q&A section and also one more short breakout session, and at the end some very specific tips on how you can use it. And the time is, I have 1 hour until 12:15 to do this. Yeah? Okay, and meanwhile I'm letting people in. Here's something, a small experiment. Yeah, so I have been talking for a few minutes, but not very long. I would like to invite you to type in the chat your impression of me. Yeah, so you have listened to me. So try on the basis of these first minutes to say, Mark, I think you are nice, not nice, active, agreeable, not agreeable, whatever comes first into your mind. Type it in the chat, please. I see already some things appearing, so just type it in it and we will see what it means later on. Yeah. You can also be critical, but it doesn't have to be positive things. We can, you could also say, I think you're going to talk a lot. Can also be an impression you have at this moment. Yeah, so don't hesitate. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Music lover. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Yeah. So you know, my main point here is, welcome, Pete. My main point here is how much you already have an impression of someone on the basis of a very short moment, you know, and research often shows that this first impression stays, and that it often does not change, even not after a year. Yeah? If you're interested, give me a mail, and I can show you the research that says, you know, that this doesn't change easily. Yeah? And it also says a lot about how I am relating, because a lot of those things are about me, but are also about my activity, but also a lot already about how I seem to connect with you as participants. Yeah? So that are two important things to maintain, to hear, or to keep in mind. So I will come back to that. But why are engagement, skills, and ownership so important? I think all of you know that it's important. And I don't know about your organizations, but we see that a lot of organizations are trying to make, you know, that shift towards agility, which you could, I always like this image, yeah, that you go from profit to purpose, from hierarchy to networks, from controlling to empowering, from planning to experimentation, from privacy to transparency. And there was something that is already very strange for several years. I don't know if you know Gallup. It's a big international human resource company, and they do a lot of engagement surveys worldwide. And they always find that only 60 to 70% of employees are truly engaged with their company and with their work. So if you want to change this mindset, that is my setting, that is my why, if you want to change this mindset, if you want to rebuild organizations, then I think you need people that have engagement, that are skilled, that show ownership. And your behavior as a leader is a very important element in that, to create that. Yeah. If you have questions already, you know, just, I don't see you all because I'm sharing the PowerPoint, but perhaps I will also do a moment, you know, that I will stop and give opportunity to ask questions. But if there is something very burning, then of course you can always interrupt. Yeah. And what I'm talking about is mostly leading the emotional brain. Yeah? I don't know if you know that we have 3 parts in our brain. Our reptile brain, which is only physical survival, you know, breathing, heartbeat, fight, flight, freeze, you know, running away or fighting. The emotional brain is much more, how are we relating to other people? How are we survival within a team? And how can a team survive as a team? And I will be mainly focusing on that emotional brain, because I think to really have intrinsic motivation, real engagement of people, you have to get the emotional brain along, on board. And that is very important. And there is behavior of a leader very crucial. Not as much words, because the emotional brain does not know words, only feelings. Yeah. So what you say, we feel that you're open or connecting or energetic or whatever, that's more a feeling. And then the rational brain, of course, that is more analyzing, planning, and etc. So what I will be pleading for is leading people not by selling too much in a rational way, you know, because we see often that when there is a change in a company, that there's so much rational explanation of why it is so important and why it is needed and how people will gain stuff. But someone defending that change and someone undergoing that change is completely different. So often you get on a rational level 2 monologues crossing each other. You know, the one who is selling the change is giving all kinds of rational arguments, and the one who has to implement the change has a lot of emotional concerns, rational but also emotional concerns, what is going to happen. Yeah? So, and then you don't have a dialogue, and that is often why it blocks in a lot of change processes. And the tool to do that is the leadership compass. Roberto is joining. And this is an overview. And what is the leadership compass? It is invented by Timothy Leary. It's based on Timothy Leary. Perhaps you have heard about him. But this very famous psychologist who observed behavior of people and who discovered that you can predict the behavior of people. Yeah? That you can have an influence on other people by changing your behavior. And there are 2 dimensions. And the first dimension is the active-passive dimension. Yeah? So from the moment we start interacting, one of us is mostly always more active and the other one following. And that can change very quickly. Yeah? So now I am already for a long time, I'm active, you know, in the sense of I'm leading, I'm talking, I'm explaining. So I'm in a very active role. And you guys, you are in a more passive following role. So this is always the dynamic that you have. But there is something very important about that, because this is also predictable. Does anyone have an idea if I am now too active, what happens with you listening?
I will become inactive.
Yeah,
otherwise, all your story must be so great that I am like a kid, that you are a great storyteller. Then I go into your journey storytelling stuff. But when it is boring, I fell asleep.
Yeah. And I would become passive because you are so active.
Yeah.
You're overpowering me, maybe.
Yeah. And that is exactly why I ask a question now, at this moment. That is the use of the concept already on this dimension. And of course, I am asked to explain the concept, so I have to talk a lot, I think. But this is what you see. So sometimes on the level of vision, I think, ambition, where you want to go, where you have a story to tell, you can be active as a leader. But then at a certain point, you have to become more passive. And as you go a little bit down, more passive is asking questions, encouraging people, and becoming very passive is okay. You say to people, okay, now come, with solutions. What are your ideas? How are we going to reach that big dream? So there is a change in that dimension, which is very important because, to be honest, if I look at the coachings I did until now in my career, then I am often coaching people on this dimension. I don't know if you recognize that, but people are chosen as managers or leaders often because they are active from nature, from personality. They take a lot of initiative, they are quick, they arrange stuff, they talk easily, they have a high level of responsibility. But then often you see it becomes too much, making their teams too passive. And if people are passive but very constructively following, then it's okay. Okay in the sense that they are not growing, Even if you have a good atmosphere, but as a leader, if you are talking all the time and people are executing only, it will go well, but people are not growing in that way. So your execution and your results probably will be there, but people are not growing. So a very important dimension, and a lot of, because I coach people, because when you are very active, keeping silence for 2 seconds is very long, because then I coach them and say, and they say, but my team is not responding to me. And if you say, okay, let me observe, and you ask the question, and then you stay silent. And then I'm observing, I'm doing it. They ask a question, and then within 1 second, they already give the answer themselves. And then afterwards, I say, yeah, but you did not give time. Oh, but I gave plenty of time. It was. So if you are very active, then 1 second seems a long time. So that is really something to take into account. So active triggers passive, but also passive triggers active. And this is equally important, because I see a lot in my work with teams that it can also be a pitfall. Yeah? Because certainly if a leader comes in an existing team, and if that team is rather, waiting, a little bit passive because they are educated that way, they tend to push their leader in an active role. They always say, you take the decision, you tell us what to do, you say what needs to happen. But that is also a kind of comfortable position, of course. So also passive people push other people into an active role. So it's good to know that if you're someone that you say, yeah, but very often, I don't have an active, people don't listen to me. They don't give me space in a meeting. Sometimes it's also your responsibility, to become a little bit more active, because if you stay quiet all the time, of course, other people will talk. Yeah. So that is the way you can use this dynamic. Yeah. Any questions or remarks, or someone who wants to say something?
Mark, one question. This is Gaurav.
Yeah, hi.
So Mark, if a leader is empowering his team to take decisions, so is the leader in active or passive mode?
He's then a little bit more in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's really a dimension, it is, look, the last 2 minutes, I was very active. I ask you a question. I become passive, you answer, you become active, I passive, I listen. You know, it is really from minute to minute it can work. You know, it's really a kind of dynamic that is always going on in a team. And if you're empowering, so what I often say, what I said, you know, be active on the vision and the playing field. You know, where do you want to go as a leader? What are the main values to respect? There you can be quite active, but give people more space to find own solutions and own way of workings, and help them if necessary. Because that is very motivating for people, you know. I think I said it this morning in another meeting, because Daniel Pink did a lot about motivation of people. And what he discovered is that people are motivated by mainly three things, really motivated, you know, from the inside. And that is when they get purpose, you know, vision, where to go, being part of a bigger story. So purpose, autonomy, you know, that they can find their own way of working within a framework, and mastery, getting better and better in one area. And that is what you can regulate, you know, by being active on the headlines, but giving people more independence on how they do it, but then you are there to support and to coach. You could say you are empowering people. Is that an answer to your
Very
question?
interesting. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, good.
Mark, if being active is my unconscious competence, then how do I manage that? Because I'm not doing it purposefully, but that's my natural behavior.
Yeah, and that is an interesting question, Priya, in the sense that this is about behavior. You know, it is related to personality, but we have to make a difference between personality and behavior. And it is linked, you know, because you have personalities who are always in any situation active. You know? Even if they would visit the queen or the king, probably they will be arranging the things. Yeah. You have people who are mostly always more on the following side. But besides your personality, there is behavior you can learn. Yeah. So most of this behavior you can learn. Yeah. So you can try to keep quiet. Yeah. It is as simple as that. You know, to keep quiet, to ask open questions, to encourage people to talk. Different ways how you can avoid that you become too active. Yeah? For example, what I did in the beginning of this meeting, you know, in the start of the meeting, putting people together so that they start talking, you know, the check-in is also a tool to make sure that people are more active. You know? Because if you don't talk in the beginning of a meeting, the longer you keep quiet, the bigger the chance that you don't say anything anymore after 10 minutes. And if you look at meetings, then you see that it's always the 2-3 same people who define the whole meeting, and the pattern is fixed very quickly. Because that is the value of this tool, I think, that what you see is that it can change very quickly, but also that a lot of people and a lot of teams, they get stuck in a pattern. You know, they get stuck in the pattern of me always being active, you guys always being passive. If you do that for 1 meeting, 2 meetings, then we have a pattern. And often we don't talk about that, and it continues. And then you are not using everyone's talent or potential. You know, but you say everyone is okay like he is, so you can use everyone's potential. Yeah. Really, you unmuted. Do you want to ask a question?
No, sorry.
Okay, no, I saw that you. Yeah.
I had questions, but I already resolved.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
I mean, thank you so much. That's a very nice takeaway. I like the way the Priya had asked a question and you had answered it, because it's a common solution to most of the meetings we have. I mean, it's it could be one way, or it could be we are waiting for the other person to talk, you know. So I think
Yeah,
it's a great takeaway from your conversation. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. I will end also. I hope that you have to watch the time, of course, with these practical tips in a few slides. You know how you can make sure that meetings get more active, or that everyone participates, and those kind of things, because I think it's more and more important. Then you have the other dimension, also very interesting, is the I-we dimension. Yeah? And this is really, you know, am I, to be honest, no, I don't know. If I'm talking a lot and I'm not asking questions, and if I'm here standing and thinking, you know, the only thing that is important is that I get my message across, then I would be on the I side. If I regularly think, yeah, you know, I can get my message across, but what are they thinking? What are they looking for? What is your interest as participants? And give you the opportunity to ask me questions. Then I'm on the we side. So on the I side, you're mainly defending your own position, your own ideas, your own solutions. On the we side, you are really showing in behavior that the other one is important to you. And I stress you are showing it. Yeah. Because again, I like to use, you know, inspiration for my coaching practice. Because there are quite some people who say, yeah, but I want to work together with people, you know, I'm really on the we side. And I'm always telling to people, we should do it together, you know, we have to work together. But it is not happening. And why is it not happening? Because that person is saying it in words, but not showing it in behavior, you know? It's easy for me to say, we need to do it together. And then the first one who asks a question, I look away, you know. Or another example, you know, a real example was the CEO was always saying, you know, my door is open. You know the phrase, you know, a lot of CEOs in modern times are saying, my door is always open. And then the first one that comes in, he looks a little bit annoyed. And the fact that he looks a little bit annoyed and people notice that has a much, much, much bigger impact than saying 100 times, my door is open. And of course, you cannot control yourself each time, you know, into the millisecond. But it is good to know that your behavior has so much more impact than what you say. And so you have to show in behavior that the other one is important. And some people are really not aware. You know, they are not conscious. They really have a positive intention. I want to work with people, but that's what we call the blind spot. They don't notice that in their behavior, you cannot see that. And how can you show it? You can show it by asking questions, by listening, by summarizing, by really saying, okay, I want this, you want that. How can we create a win-win situation? Yeah. When I'm talking too much, you also have to say it. So, and here you have different laws. I triggers I, which is quite important. You know, if you are defending your own interest, what you will see is that your colleagues or your employees or whoever will do the same. You know, it is contagious. If I defend only my idea, you will start to defend your idea. But also the other one is the case. We triggers we. If I show that I care for your interest, for your viewpoint, you will do the same for me. Not always immediately, but in the end, that will happen. So this is how you can influence with your behavior if people are participating, if they feel good, if they feel valued, those kind of things. So it's really in the behavior. Oh, Marcel is entering. Yeah, I wanted to show you a cool movie. on collaboration, on being on the I side or the we side. And it's a famous Dutch psychologist who does a lot of experiments with movies, with monkeys. Have a look. Hope you can see it.
A pot of hazelnuts and the flint that's needed to open the lid. You need both to get a nut, but they're separated by a see-through barrier. Vulcan has the rock, but can't reach the nuts. Virgil has the nuts, but knows he can't eat them without a rock. Vulcan quickly offers the tool. He must hope Virgil is smart enough to open the lid and fair enough to cut him in on the spoils. Virgil is struggling. He doesn't have his friend's skill. And Vulcan is getting impatient. The flint is finally through the lid, but can Virgil be trusted to share the nuts? With Vulcan out of reach, it must be tempting to take the lot. Three nuts, a fair share. Vulcan and Virgil have used teamwork to beat the system. But can captains really have a sense of fair play?
So, can you see how the I-we could here play a big role in this situation? You know, you give something to someone, but will it deliver to you or will it not deliver? You know, will you get some nuts or will you not get some nuts? You see him even doubting at a certain moment or getting a little bit impatient. You know, I've given my rock, but will I give something in return? And that, I think, is the, you know, imagine that the one monkey would stay on the I side, you know, and says, now I have the rock, I have the nuts, and I will not give anything to the other one because he cannot reach me. Then, of course, you are off for an I interaction pattern that will continue for a long time. Does it make sense?
Yes.
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 Yeah. Okay, cool. So if you combine these dimensions, then you get different types of behavior. So first, if you are active, but on the we side, you know, and this is more having really an ambition, a vision, you want to go somewhere, you know, you are enthusiastic about something and you want to start with that. But you're also on the we side, you want to take people along with you, yeah? So you will also show, I have an idea, I want to go somewhere, but I need your opinion, I need your input, I need your collaboration. What do you want? I think asking the question, what do you want? What is blocking you is very important here. Then you are really in the yellow or initiating behavior. Yeah? I chose yellow because of it's the color of the kings, you know, in the sense of, if you are more passive, more following, and again, you can, so don't misunderstand me, yeah? Because you can show different behaviors in different situations. Some people are more consistent. They will always be more or less in one color of behavior. A lot of people, they are in different colors depending on the situation and the counterpart. But green or following behavior is really constructive, you know? You say, dear yellow lady or man, you have a fantastic idea. I'm following you. You know, I want to execute I want to do it. I just follow. But then on the other side, and this is important, is blue or more passive withdrawing behavior. Yeah? And they are related to the other one, the red or active. Because if you are very inspiring, yeah, and you have a lot of ideas, you're very active, sometimes people don't see you as yellow, but they see you as red. You know, because if there is something in your communication coming along in the sense of, for example, it could be a risk that I have now, you know, I know it better, you don't know it, you know, I'm smart, you're a little bit more. So, you know, that I'm more on my I, convinced about my I position, then my behavior could be seen as competitive, red, active, going from my own point of view. And if you take the laws, that triggers passive withdrawing behavior at others. Yeah? So if you are red and you are very argumentative, you know, in the sense of you're passionate and you have a lot of arguments, but you are mainly defending your own position, not listening, not asking questions, then your team or your sparring partner can become or can start to show blue withdrawing behavior. You know, they say, you know, what the heck. He's always only defending his own position. I don't try anymore. You know, I'm just, if I have to do something, and if it's check, I will do it. Otherwise, I will not do it. The same is here. Yellow initiating behavior will trigger constructive following behavior. But if you are too yellow, it can become too green. Yeah? In the sense what I said in the beginning, if you are too yellow, too active, too inspiring, it could also be that people become too passive and really only following and nothing else but following. Yeah? So it is always good to come a little bit to the middle. So if you are inspiring and at a certain moment you ask questions, then they move up. And the same is here. The more you are competitive, defending your own position, for a while they will be discussing with you, you know, here, they will also give arguments. After a while, they withdraw and they say, I don't care anymore. And that is important, you know, because sometimes without knowing, you think you're here, you're inspiring, but people see you here and they go to the blue corner. And then you see people are no longer on board. You know, I've lost them. And that, of course, is what you would like to avoid. So, are you still with me or are you in the blue corner?
I'm still listening and don't sleep.
Yeah, we are with you, Mark.
Yeah. So it's good to check once in a while. You know, I cannot see everyone. That is a little bit annoying with Zoom, that when you share the PowerPoint, you don't see all the faces. And it's always good to see all the faces, you know, because if people are silent, that is also relevant in this concept. You know, if people are more on the following silent sides, it is not always easy to see if they are on the I side or we side. You know, if they are detached or if they are with you. So that's why I try to check. And online, that's even more difficult. You know, online. In a real live meeting, of course, that is more easy. Yeah, I think it's already said, you know, why is it so important? And I think the why, stressing the why again is always, because when you push people too much under the IV, you know, in the passive mode, then you get that famous ice mountain in the sense that too much is happening underwater. And that people are quiet but not following. Yeah? So an interesting example is I'm Belgian, and I also always worked a lot in the Netherlands. And I don't know if you know, but Belgian culture and Dutch culture is very different. So Dutch leaders are sometimes more active, and then when they start to lead in Belgium, you know, I have coached several of them. who said, you know, I take the lead in a meeting, and it's so easy, you know, everyone agrees, and it is, you know, after a half an hour we have finished, and everyone agrees and goes along and whatever, and is quiet. But then after a few months, they see that nothing is happening. And that is because Belgian culture is more staying below the waterline. Yeah, oh, sorry.
Mark,
So in that sense,
Mark, I'm a Dutch guy.
Yeah.
I fully
Yeah.
agree with you. Fully agree.
Yeah.
I fully agree. Say the Dutch
Yeah.
people speak loud but are quiet afterwards.
Yeah. Yes. So in the Dutch culture is the other way around. A lot of people are more in general, because also you have also a lot of Dutch people who are quiet, you know, and the other way around. But in general, you see that in Dutch culture you have more discussion, so more people are active, but then the decision is also executed. In Belgium, if someone is too active, people will go below the waterline. They don't say anything, but they are thinking no. And then it does not happen. But I think sometimes in every culture, it can be important, you know, to see if people are really, you know, coming out of the water. That perhaps that's the main message, you know, if they are not below water, and if they are really with you. But I'm glad that you recognize it. So, about, because what I said earlier is that what you sometimes get is, and I think that is the key relevance, is that you get frozen patterns, you know, and that can be in a face-to-face relationship with someone, but it can also be a team. You know, that always the same people are active or always the same people are passive. That you have a relationship with someone, you know, where one is always giving arguments, and you are also, you know, the relationship where if the other one says black, you automatically wants to say white, and the other way around. Yeah. And that are the frozen dynamics on this concept, and how to change it. And that is a little bit $1 million question, I think. Because let's take an example, you know, Sandra and Samir. And you can see, you know, Sandra is not very happy because Samir is always talking a lot and giving a lot of arguments. And she also arguments back at a certain moment, but also sometimes she goes into the blue. And this is always, almost every time they have the same pattern. Yeah? So Sandra becoming annoyed, Samir keeps talking. Anyone an idea what you could do to change this? If from the perspective of Sandra or Samir, suppose you're Sandra or you're Samir, what could you try to do to change this pattern?
As Samir, I tried to be a good listener also.
Okay, yeah. So change your behavior also, eh? Yeah.
I would say to Sandra, Sandra, what's in your mind? Can you tell me what is your feeling?
Yeah. So then Samir should change his behavior. Yeah. So you can, and what you see, and that is my important. So you can do a lot to change it, but imagine that Samir would say, Sandra, what's on your mind? You have a big chance that Sandra will become angry, you know? And that she says, yeah, but this and yeah, and you never listen, you're talking all the time. And then, of course, Samir, he continues with talking, yeah, because he will be explaining that it's not the case, etc. Yeah? So often when you change your behavior, that does not work immediately. You know, it takes time. Yeah? So you have two ways, two core principles that will increase your success. And the first one is meta communication, in the sense, talk about the pattern you see. And this is a very, very, very powerful one. You know, we call it meta communication, in the sense, you know, you could say, Sandra or Samir could say, "Oh, you know, just for a second, what I notice is that we often come into a discussion and that then, you know, you don't like it, I don't like it. What is happening?" You know, so you label what is happening in the interaction. You talk about the communication. That is a very strong one, because that gives you the opportunity to really change something fundamentally. Because then one of the two say, yeah, you know, yeah, I recognize it. You know, it's always a little bit, we do it the same. You say something, you say white, I say black, and then we go. What can we do about it? And the second principle is be persistent. Yeah, so patterns do not change overnight. Because often, you know, if you say white and I say black, and then I start saying black and I'm asking questions, what you will be doing is defending white much more. Yeah. So the chance that your behavior becomes worse in the beginning is very big. But if I keep stopping with fighting, then finally I will change the relationship. And of course, it is always better if two people want to tango. We often say you need two to tango. But my opinion has always been, it is easier if both of us want to change the relationship. But to be honest, one can make it change. You alone can make it change. If you are in a fighting relationship with someone and you stop fighting, then finally the other one has also to stop. That are the two main principles. What I would like to do is, so I think I covered a lot, and then I'm going to put you in small groups for 5 minutes to discuss a little bit on that. So here I have some very practical tips on how to create more initiative, ownership, make people more active, involved, get them active as soon as possible. Yeah? So that's why a check-in for each meeting, you know, we more and more often, we do a kind of check-in in the meeting. You know, everyone who starts saying in 30 seconds, how's it going? You know, I'm coming from a tough meeting, I'm coming from home, I'm feeling excited. Just a little thing to say, because the more people say in the beginning, the more chance that you have that they stay active during the conversation. Be transparent about what you expect. This is a little bit the meta communication I just talked about, you know. Tell people that you expect them to participate, encourage them to share their opinions. So ask for opinions, open questions, listen, take time. Acknowledge all input whenever you can. So if someone is quiet but then starts saying something and you agree, then don't forget to agree. Because, you know, sometimes people quicker say that they don't agree instead of that they agree with something. And it's also so important to say that you agree with something. Break classical patterns, meeting patterns. Yeah. So this is also a very important thing to make people more active, you know. Don't discuss everything with the whole team at the same moment. But if you have a discussion to solve a problem, for example, you know, put people first in small bus groups, you know, per 2 or 3. Let them think about it. Let them reflect, brainstorm, and then have the main discussion. Those simple things can make a team much more equal in participation, and you will get more ideas. So yeah, you could do it with post-its, you know, that everyone writes post-its, or you can install bus groups, you know, if you are in a certain point in the meeting and you would like to input, then you say, okay, just 2 people turn to each other, have a small discussion about the topic, and then we continue. So very simple things that you can do to get much more animation, activity, engagement, and energy into different types of discussions. You can always ask two active people to become a little bit more passive. So we could ask Priya to keep it, to put it a little bit down. Could always help. Sorry, Priya. Be persistent. Continue. Am I saying that everything should be participative and democratic? No. I think that it's good to frame the goal and the approach for a meeting, and that you can give boundaries. You know, sometimes you can give an instruction, sometimes things are decided. You don't need input, but I think it's good to make those expectations explicit. Yeah, this is a very simple thing. If you are not so active in a team, and I think that for most of you this will not be a problem, but perhaps you can help someone with it. It's a nice thing to tell to people. You know, if you want to be more active in a team and it's difficult for you, you can do it in steps. You know, you can already start by showing some non-verbal behavior, and not when you agree. Agree with others, you know, express your agreement, say, Abhishek, that is very interesting what you're saying. That is easier than giving your opinion, so agree with others. Raise your hand, can be a very cool step to do, you know, because then people will be looking. Ask questions about what others are saying is already a more active one. And then finally, tell your own opinion. Yeah? So different possibilities to become more and more active within a meeting or face-to-face stuff. Yeah. So what I would like to do is to put you now in small breakout groups and give you 5 minutes to discuss about what you heard. And if you have any more questions or reflections, please type them in the chat. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Yes, that's absolutely fine, Mark. Yes.
Okay. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, I think we are almost good to go.
Hey, hi, Dheeraj.
Hi, Abhishek.
Hi. Yes.
I was just thinking that this personality, does it change from situation to situation, or it remains same throughout the?
No, again,
this
it
is
depends. Again, it depends on mindset, right? So, if somebody has a procrastinating mindset, then probably it won't change. I mean, see, they don't open to change. They don't like changes more often. So that's why, I mean, no, it depends. I mean, it again depends on mindset. That's what he said, right? So it all depends on mindset. It all depends on your culture, tradition.
yes, that happens here.
Yes. I mean,
So
that happens everywhere. That happens
yeah,
everywhere.
correct. Yeah, mostly in like in India, what we face that with the leaders mostly talk about the agenda and about the things, and when we often we only listen, and then we realize that something is not
And
happening.
in fact, it's sometimes more than that. I mean, see, here in India, right? We live in a different culture, different tradition. So that's why, see, our mindset is, so I mean, it's according to our tradition and culture. So sometimes, right? So we may not be. I mean, see, we personally we may not be that bad, but we don't realize when we turned out to be a bad towards our team, or see, we here in India, right? So we focus morely. I mean, see, primarily we focus on roles. See, people will ask you, "What's your role?" Then
Definitely.
all of a sudden, people will start behaving like demigods or gods when they see that manager role. See, those
Correct.
mindsets difficult to change overnight. So it's a, I mean, it's a career-long process. Until and unless
Definitely.
that person himself doesn't want to change the mindset, then it will never happen.
Yeah, that's why we have these designations like Scrum Master, Senior Scrum Master. Yeah.
See, that's
So
even more. That's even. I mean, see, that's even adding fuel on the fire. See,
definitely,
in a
definitely.
project, if we'll have a project manager, if we'll have a program manager, if we'll have a delivery manager, if we'll have a product owner, if we'll have a scrum master. So what do you expect? I mean, see, that's a usual case scenario which is currently happening in many places in India. In order to make a project
Correct.
successful, what leaders does, they add a delivery manager, they also allocate a program manager, project manager, scrum master, product owner, but at the some point of time they ended up doing the same way, where we see a lot of conflict. See, the conflict never happens on the ground level. The conflicts always happen on the mid level. See, you'll never see a developer will fight with a senior developer, or I mean, a software
Still
engineer or
happening.
a senior software engineer will never fight with each other. They will never have any conflict. You'll never see a technical lead, senior software engineer will never have a conflict with each other. You'll never
The
see
yeah, the only solution is to leave the company and join a new company and get into new issues.
no, the only solution is when the scenario what I said, right? So when you have a program manager, project manager, delivery manager, scrum master, product owner, either one of them should have an open mindset. So what will happen, see, if one of them will have an open mindset, will have a different mindset, will not have a procrastinating mindset, then probably the conflicts will not happen.
Definitely, yeah.
So in my case, I mean, see, in my opinion, the person who has that open mindset, who was not having that procrastinating mindset, he is the actual leader. Who doesn't let the conflict happens. Even though he ended up doing shit things, but still he is a great leader, according to me. So because he manages, unknowingly or unknowingly, intentionally or unintentionally, quoted unquoted,
Yeah.
he actually manages all his all his peers or superiors, whatever we say.
Yeah, but we have read about this conflicts also. Conflicts are also good in some terms, I would say. Like it also resolves many issues also. If it's a constructive conflicts, then it's good.
Yes,
But if
that
it's
is, see, that I
yes,
agree. But see, these kind of conflicts which are which are problematic, so those will add
those are
fuel on the fire.
definitely, yeah. So that thing has to be done. Then leaders definitely have to create other leaders so that they also behave in a similar way.
Correct.
So that's what we have been
And
doing in this industry. Yeah.
can see, moreover, not particularly in India, anywhere you go, leaders will always have that insecurity. Leaders will always have that. Basically, I mean, see, it's all insecurity, right? So when they see a potential leader in someone else who can able to replace the current leader, they always develop that insecurity. So they remove that competition. Some way or other, they remove that competition because the power is in current leader hand, right? So the other person is actually grooming. But ideally, what a leader should do is a leader should actually groom a person, groom a person to competent enough so that he can come and replace him. He or
Definitely.
she can come and replace
See,
him.
yeah, until unless you leave your seat, no, you will not be able to go to a higher seat. That's the
Correct.
thing.
Correct. So
So
we'll
I
get
think,
back. We'll get back to the main
yeah.
session. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Dheeraj.
Thanks.
It was nice
Thank you.
talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Giving the Dutch and the the cultural differences. My question is more related to, because we are working with the global teams now, and we could face a cultural differences, unconscious bias now. How do I take steps for this?
Yeah. What is? Yeah, I'm waiting until because everyone is returned, I think. Yeah. I think you could have a look at, there is a cultural model from Hofstede, and that also says something about, you know, how are people related. You can deduct that in the sense to which culture is more active or more passive, and then you have to take that into account. But I also think you can observe it. You know, I think when you're working with a team, I think, and also you can with a team, you can also label the pattern you see. You know, if you have an international team, also at a certain moment you could say, "Oh, guys, you know, for a moment in between, I see that the same three people are talking and that the other ones are quiet. What is happening?" So do it in a kind, natural way. You know, what is happening? Is this what we want? Is this not what we want? So I think observing, so looking into the cultural model of Hofstede, but mainly observing what is happening within a group. You know, because I also worked with cultures where I did that, and where people say, to be honest, we really don't want to say anything. You know, but yeah, you know, for us it is, if you force us to talk, that will be a kind of offensive. But if you discuss about that, then people give you that feedback. I hope that this is yeah.
Yep.
So I think my time is already up. I put on the last slide. I don't know if that's allowed. If you would like to know more, or if I cannot answer questions, that you could give me send me a mail, and then I will organize you know, half-hour session beginning next year to answer all the questions in the chat. So Priya, how much time can I take?
Priya, I think you're in mute.
I think you're talking on mute.
Okay, I'm back. I've unmuted myself. I said, yes, 5 more minutes you can discuss.
Okay. Yeah. So I will have a look at the questions, and then just interrupt me if you think, if it's time. You know what I say? If I don't have answers to questions and you're interested, just send me a mail, and then we do a half-hour session beginning.
Mark, I have one question.
Yeah?
Simple.
Yeah?
I googled your book, but I cannot order this over 9 weeks. This delivered it in 9 weeks. Is that correct?
That could be, yeah. Because you can buy it at Amazon.
Yeah.
You can also send me mail.
Yeah.
And then then it can be delivered by not by Instagram, by Ingram.
Ingram. Okay, I will do that. Yeah, thank you.
If you do a mail with your address, then it can be delivered by.
Thank you. Hey, thanks.
Okay, so that was not the type of question I anticipated, but nice question. Walk the talk is good. Something interesting I saw is, can emotional brain overpower a rational brain? And that is a super interesting one. Yes. Really, you know, but the brain would be a session in itself. The emotional brain, when you don't feel safe socially, when your position or your role is in danger, emotional brain takes over. It overrules rational brain. And it depends from person to person, you know, it depends on your education. You know, some people are educated in a way where rational has more control over emotional. But it is the example is, you know, you want to be assertive to your boss. You know, you prepare it, you practice it, you do everything, and then you are sitting there in his office or her office, and you freeze. And that is when the emotional brain takes over, because the emotional brain has a memory of itself, and it says, no, you know, speaking to an authority figure, we have done that in the past, not with a lot of success, so we are not going to do that. Not in words, of course, but the emotional brain takes over. So, and you can practice that also, you know, you can train yourself in having more, for some people, it's a bit the other way around. They are so rational that they lost touch with the emotional parts of themselves. Sometimes you have to agree to disagree. I agree. Yeah. Also a very good one. Yeah. Is it over or not yet started? And the compass is situational. Yeah. So it is depending on. I noticed my first customer was very active towards me, and then at a certain moment we visit together his boss in Rotterdam, and to be honest, he was gone. You know, from a very active. Because at a certain moment I said, where is he? Where has he gone? Because when his boss was present, he became very passive. Without his boss, only with me, he became very active. So yeah, you see how it can change depending on the other.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mark, even we were discussing the same thing, myself, Padma and Willie, that this our behavior is always situational, because depending on what we think is right for the team, that's how we are adapting ourselves. And all of us,
Yeah.
three of us, kind of agreed that yeah, we are on the same page. Yeah. And is there any other question? No, I don't see any other question. Yeah, there is a question. Mark, I will read that out for you. How can we use this compass for building skills and strengths?
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like me going to say you have to buy my book. Because you can translate this to 10, 12 separate skills, and that is described in the book. And it are very, very simple skills. Because the skills you have to develop is ask open questions, dare to leave a pause, dare also to frame a conversation. To say, okay, this is the goal of the conversation and nothing else. So you have 10 to 12 very small skills which you have to master to use the compass. And then it is quite possible, to say, okay, always take, what is happening in this situation. I'm doing a meeting, everyone is quiet, I have to become less active. Or everyone is shouting to each other, now I have to go above to make them a little bit more passive. Yeah, also, yeah, because by being more active, you can push active people a little bit down. But if you have a lot of people arguing, then it's time to go to the V side and find a common objective. So those 10, 12 skills, if you focus on them, then you can use it rather well. I hope that is an answer.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I think we got answer to that question. Agalya, if you have finished with your scribe, are you able to share your screen now?
I have a question, Priya.
While Agalya shares her screen, you can ask that question, because Agalya is not going to. Yeah, Agalya, sure. I just want a response from Agalya. Just hold on. Agalya, can you hear us? Or did we lose?
Priya, by the time they finish, I will share it.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Agalya. So, Mark, basically, you have been training a lot of leaders, right? So, I just wanted to know, I mean, how challenging it is or how difficult it is training a leader who always have a predefined mindset. I mean, who comes with a predefined mindset that we are leaders. So how do you find it challenging? What level of challenges, difficulty that you face, ideally training them or grooming them as a leader? I mean, if you can share with all of us, that'll be great.
Yeah. Of course, mindset is mindset, and that's connected to personal development. That's why I often say, I try to make the combination between personal growth and leadership, because mindset has to do a lot with upbringing and beliefs you cultivated during your life. And that is not always easy to change, you know, and if you don't change the mindset, it's also difficult to change behavior, you know, because then you change it for 1 week and then you're back to off if your inside does not change. But you can change it by discussion, by giving arguments, by listening. You can work on the mindset of people, but not easy. That is really coaching, you know. And sometimes I think we spoke about it earlier also, is that sometimes it's not too much convincing, you know, but if someone has a mindset in the set of a leader has to control everything, you know, has to check everything because otherwise people will not work. Sometimes it can be as simple as just asking a question, you know. Tell me, and the question would be, tell me how that works for you. What do you see happening? And sometimes that's better than trying to convince someone, you know, you have a wrong vision of human beings. But it's more asking, you know, if you are doing that, controlling, and how is it working for you? And then people often start to say, yeah, how is it working for me, you know? It is a lot of work because, yeah, I have to check a lot, I have to control a lot, I have to be present, I have to do micromanagement, and then you have a starting point. Then you have a starting point to say, do you think that could happen differently?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. So you will have to give sharing rights to noun and verb, Mark. She wants to share her screen.
I think I do have the sharing rights, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, there you are, Mark.
Oh,
the leadership compass.
Look at that. Great.
And that's
few points to add, but then, yeah.
Yeah, that is something which she did live just to keep everyone updated.
Cool.
Yeah, we haven't shared your PPT with her for sure.
Yeah, super.
And this is a token of appreciation from us to you, Mark, and we will share this with you so that you can, yeah, you may, if for to give us a small favor, you know, you may want to share this with your participants when you take this workshop. Just, you know, that, you know, yeah. Okay,
super
so
cool.
I think I will again go back and share my screen just to wrap everything up. Yeah, just a moment. Give me a second. Yeah.
Priya, I have one last question. Can I go?
Yeah, go ahead. Your questions can carry on while I share my screen.
Yeah, Mark. So, Mark, I mean, Mark, you have anything specific to say to all the aspiring leaders? Basically, see, because nowadays people are all focused towards a lot of certifications. I mean, see, we see a lot of certifications, and people always think that going through, I mean, doing certain courses or certifications will help them to become a leader. But I always believe that it comes within, I mean, within the individual. So what's your take on that? I mean, how do, I mean, if we have to guide someone, so how do we do that? Because I never believe in certification. Something which comes within you, that's natural. That's a natural instinct. So what's your take on that?
Yes, I agree partly and partly not. I think, you know, having a certificate, and I just got one, so I cannot say that it's that I don't believe in it. I'm very happy with it. So no, but seriously, I think a certificate is not a guarantee. Never. You know, you can have 100 certificates and not be a good leader. You can have non-certificate and still be a good leader.
Absolutely.
But okay, you know, certificates give a kind of indication of what kind of training you followed and so on. But I think that a lot of leadership skills can be learned, you know, in the sense of if you learn them by having a certificate, that is another question. But I'm sure that a lot of skills can be learned, but from the inside, from the inside.
And,
thank you.
So the questions and the discussions can continue on LinkedIn or through emails. everyone, we encourage you to connect with Mark on LinkedIn, and please do, shoot out your questions to him. And if required, we can have another brainstorming sessions sometime later. I see some feedback where people are asking for more Mark, so that's something that we can think about it in 2021. As of now, this is a small token of appreciation along with the scribe that Agalya made for you. And this is for your valuable time and your expertise that you shared with us on the Leadership Compass. And that was really, really enlightening for me as well. And as an active person, I need to think of becoming a little more passive, I feel. So thank you for that insights, Mark. And that is all from the webinar right now. But before we wind up, because we are winding up 2020, we would want to thank a few of our members who have been very active in the community and have attended each and every session that we have organized so far. And with that, I will move on. Hana Siddiqui, she is our Women Power Up Network USA lead. She has been very, very active and helped us, been instrumental in shaping this community as well. I think she's not there, but we truly thank her for our patronage. We also thank Padma, who also been very, very active and been with us since the inception of this community. So thank you, Padma. Please continue being connected with us and let us take this community to the next height. Shaileja Mishra, who has been very instrumental in maintaining our YouTube channel, creating videos, and maintaining our Instagram. Thank you, Shaileja, for your contribution. And last but not the least, Shilpa. Shilpa, thank you again, being so active and always being with us for every milestones, every session, every webinar that we have conducted so far. So with that, thank you guys. Don't forget to take the feedback. We have put the feedback link again on the chat window. So that will be open. Keep taking the feedback so that we know what we need to do to improve in the future. And thank you, Mark. Thank you, Willie, and others, everyone for joining this session. And we hope to see you soon in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you, Mark.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Thank you.